what do you consider before you can actually place a trade? And then how do you manage the trade that you've now found yourself in? And then what do you risk when you find yourself in a position? So to be able to answer these questions, if you've been watching some of the videos we usually post here on a weekly basis, and then maybe sometimes also some funny videos where we're in the lake and we're swimming or we're sailing, doing water bike or jet ski. So the first thing we do when we trade is that there are specific market principles that we follow, that I follow before I can actually place a trade. So I cannot just wake up and I place a trade. I don't do that. I would want to wait for certain principle to be met, and then I can begin to look for those trading opportunities, and maybe I can share with you. So the next thing I usually do, how I trade is the concept I trade. I actually call it price difference. Now, it may be different from any other concept that you've heard from different people, but it's basically a concept that is based on picking a few things from different strategies, whether it is Elliott wave, whether it is the Wyckoff or smart money concepts, basic market structure, support and resistance. So you just build everything up, and then I come up with a concept. I call it price difference. So what I basically mean by price difference is when the market moves from point A, B, and then C, the journey from A, B to C creates a pattern, and usually the intersection of those patterns is in B. If you see price at different points, and then you've called those points A, B, and C, the difference between A and C is B, and that is where I'm going to be looking for trades. And this usually happens after the market gets out of a range, or the market goes towards a high or a low. Okay, so price difference is basically a concept whereby I try to find the differences in price as they move from one point to another. Okay, when price moves from a point this to another, it will give me a difference. And that difference can be how far or how near price is to a particular point. So that's the first thing. So you just need to understand it. It is like a junction or an intersection of price. The other thing I follow when I want to trade also is the concept I call the principle of balance. You see, the principle of balance, when you apply it to trading, is basically a concept whereby the market doesn't just move randomly. The market does not move one-sided. The principle basically states that if the market has actually moved from one point to another, then it will also go to another point. So if the market is at a high, and then the market goes back to that high, the only reason why it is going to that high is because there is a previous high that it had created and the market wants to balance it. The same thing when there is a low. There is a low that the market wants to balance. So the principle of balance basically states that the market moves from point, as the market is going up, it is trying to go back to a previous high. And as the market is coming down, it's just trying to come back to a previous low. So now you as a trader, when you're trying to follow the principle of balance, you just need to know now, okay, if we're forming higher highs, where is the market likely going to go? So you look for a previous yearly high, a monthly high, weekly high, or a daily high. And then that is the direction the market is going to. So that's the principle of balance that I actually follow when I'm trading. So now you combine it with price difference, and then you have a principle of balance that you will have to follow when you're trading. Then the other principle I follow when I'm trading is what we call market rhythm. It's what I call a market rhythm. Now, the market has a rhythm. The market is not random. Some people think the market is random, no, the market has a rhythm, just like the laws of nature and anything else. There is always a rhythm to everything we do. If you listen to music a lot, you realize those rhythms of a certain music and put you in certain circle. So the principle of rhythm is basically whereby you understand the movement of the market in terms of volume. And when we talk in terms of volume, we are not talking about this generic market volume that is brought by different market sessions where you would have a collision of session whereby you have one or more session colliding. That brings volume. Let me give you an example. You can have a situation whereby London market is working together with the New York market, there is increased volume, or you will have Sydney and Tokyo. That session, that collision that leads to increased volume, it is one factor that you identify in market rhythm. So, in addition to this generic market volume, the other way in which we study the market rhythm is through understanding the days in which we've seen volume and then the days in which we don't see volume. Now, you don't see volume in the markets all the time. You cannot see too much movement on Monday, Tuesday, all the way throughout the week. The same thing, you cannot see a lot of market movement in a month, in a week. There are some weeks with less volume. Then there are some months with less volume and others with more volume. Then there are quarters with more volume and others with less volume. So now, when you're going to trade, you study that rhythm in addition to the generic rhythm that is brought by market sessions and collision of sessions. That rhythm whereby you know we've not had serious volumes in the last 2 days. Therefore, there is going to be movement of the market on these other coming days. And then therefore, when you see an opportunity, you take it because you know the rhythm is going to be okay. And then also the same thing goes with the weeks. There are certain weeks we may not have volume. That means you will have. Let me give you an example. Usually the first week of the month where we have NFP, if you've studied price for a long time, you realize there's usually increased volume. Market tends to move a lot in the first week of the month, and then maybe in the middle of the month. So that is the second principle you need to know. Okay, so I've talked about three now: price difference, principle of balance, and then the rhythm of the market. You need to be able to understand the rhythm of the market. Okay. Then now number four, which I do when I'm trading, is that I've come to a conclusion of that there is no holy grail. You need to put it in your mind that there is no holy grail in this market here. Therefore, the closest thing to a holy grail is risk management, knowing how much you're risking in a particular trade and how you prepare for those risks. You see, there is a very big lie that is sold to people every time that somebody would come out of nowhere and then they would be able to say, I have this winning system, 100% winning system. Yes, Elisha, you're saying hello. If you have any question, you just type it down there. I will be able to answer them later. But thank you for joining. So I was explaining that concept of lack of holy grail. There is no holy grail. If somebody comes and says they have 100% win rate, just know that is not true. And usually the guys who come up with things like that, these are guys with introducing broker link, IB links. What you need to know with anybody that has an introducing broker link and is trying to teach you risk management, that is usually a lie. You will not go far. I think I will explain about brokers introducing broker link. Some information that you may have never seen on this YouTube, I will maybe talk about it. We will have more live sessions. So the moment you understand there is no holy grail, and then now you settle with a system that you have backtested, a system that you know it will work. And then you practice with that system and then size your positions well. Okay, so that is number four. Understand that there is no holy grail. And then you see, to stretch this point of holy grail, what I want you to observe here is that most of the industries and most of the things that we actually do in this world, like here, nobody actually has a holy grail. Now, what do I actually mean by a holy grail if you're not familiar with the concept? It's a concept whereby somebody thinks there is perfection to a particular strategy or an ideology. That is basically what holy grail is. So if a trader comes to you and says, I have a holy grail, my system has 100% win rate, that is honestly not true. And I'm not saying this out of excitement or what, it's just out of the data that is available for us, you realize that that is not true. Okay? So once you have this, then the next thing I want you to observe here is that in your psychology, let me explain this to you in this scenario whereby you have, when you enter a trade, every trade that you enter goes through a circle. Or if you call the trade a situation, you will be realized that, so a trade situation, that is now the fifth principle I'm trying to explain to you, whereby you have to understand every trade as a situation. So a trade situation is basically a situation whereby when you open a trade, the moment you open a trade like this, you need to realize that the trade will go through, it can become a problem that will cause a reaction, and that reaction must have a solution. So basically, every trade you take goes through problem, reaction, solution. And usually it starts with one problem. The moment you've opened a buy position, just know that that is problem one. And this problem will cause you to react. And that reaction, if you're not careful, will make you to create problem number two, and then maybe problem number three. And all of these will require 3 or 4 solutions. So what do you usually do as a trader when you have a situation where you find yourself, you have entered a trade, and then this trade has created a problem? What do I actually mean by that? So if you've entered a trade, you have a stop loss, you have a take profit, that is a situation. But then this situation becomes a problem whereby you've entered a trade, and then you are adjusting the trade, the stop loss. That means it has become a problem now. Or you break even. The point, there is no problem with breaking even, but the problem comes is if you break even today and then tomorrow you also break even, you don't break even, the next day you break even. The point is you want to be able to do things uniformly and consistently over time. So if you decide to be a break-even trader, then continue to break even on each and every trade, because the next time you don't break even, it will take you out. So you solve that problem that way. So you don't want a trade situation to become problem number one that results from you trying to break even. So if you enter the trade and then the trade is trying to become a break-even trade, you are not planned it to be a break-even, then you put it into a break-even. Then you do it once. Next time you don't. So you want to be able to maintain uniformity. And then also you could enter a trade and then you adjust your stop loss. If your stop loss, let's say, was 30 pips, and now you've seen the trade is coming towards your entry, and you increase your stop loss to maybe 40 pips, 50 pips. There you have created another problem. Okay, now you have two problems. You have a problem of more risk. You're likely to lose more money than you had actually planned. So that is going to affect you eventually. Then maybe let's say you have a take profit. So let's trade. The trade is about to hit your take profit. And what you do, you adjust your take profit or you remove it. What you have actually caused there is that you have lengthened your problem or you have added your problem, because this is the original nature of the trading. The trade is supposed to go through. The trade is supposed to be one problem that required one stop loss, that required maybe a break even. But now you have put a stop loss, which is correct. But now you have adjusted the stop loss. That means it's now two problems. You have added break even. That is three problems. You have adjusted the take profit. You have increased it. That is like four problems. So to other people now, they add another position. You say you have a risk, let's say 3% in this particular, and the trade pulled back, and then you added two more positions. Now your risk is 5 or 10. And that will actually cost you. You're going to lose money because you have not treated the trade situation. You have not allowed the trade situation to resolve itself. Every trade situation that you enter is supposed to resolve itself. It's supposed to go through a problem, it has to react when you see that volume. That is the reaction of the trade, and then it either comes to hit your stop loss, which is a solution, or hits your take profit, which is a solution. So that is like number 5 principle. Understand the trade situation. Okay? If you're still following, don't forget that we've talked about price difference as a principle. We've talked about the principle of balance. We've talked about market rhythm. We've talked about the trade situation. Now, the other principle, I'm going to continue to share them with you here. But like I said, if you have any question, you just drop it in the live chat. I will be able to break it down for you. Okay? Then usually the next thing is understanding the principle of uniformity. Now, uniformity is whereby you decide to do things like the same, whatever your decision. If you have decided to be risking a particular amount of money, it is very important for you to maintain that risk. If you risk 1%, if you're trading a prop firm and you risk 1% each time you see a trading opportunity, it is very important for you to be able to maintain that. If you risk 5% on your account, then it is also important for you to maintain that. Because the problem with this is, if your risk today is 1%, then tomorrow is 2%, then the next day is 0.5%, you are not being uniform. What you are doing there is that you are actually confusing yourself. Remember, the market is like the market is stiff. Like the market will always do whatever it wants to do. Like the market is more correct than you are. Okay? It will always move at its own pace and will and time. So what you need to do is that you need to come to the market with a uniform thinking in terms of risk, especially, and then also in terms of a strategy. If you already have a working strategy, then that is the strategy you should approach the market with. And then you should approach the same market with the same risk. If it is 5, keep it 5 until you reach a certain number. If it is 1, then you maintain it until you reach a certain number. Okay, somebody is asking me whether I'm a day trader or a swing trader. Okay, that's a very good question. Maybe to be able to answer that question is that I do both, and for different reasons. If I trade a prop firm, I don't swing on prop firms. I only do swing trading on my personal account. And of course, we all know the reasons why we don't do, why most prop firms account we don't swing. I only swing on my account, and there is a community which is on Telegram. You just look for Throne trades. You will be able to see. There are some trades we've been enter them and then we hold them for 8 months, and then there are trades we enter and then we get out in and out of the day. And then you just need to go to the previous videos. When you go to Throne YouTube there, you just look at the videos. I always do an analysis of what will happen. Like when the market is closed, or I come back and then I analyze the market, I will say this is what will happen, and then it happens. So I do both, but for different reasons. Yeah, I use prop firms. And but my advice to you, to people who trade prop firms, is that this is what I usually tell my students and the guys we trade with. It is very important for you to be able to buy a prop firm account from profits that you've made from your personal account. So in other words, it is important for you to first trade your account. Once you can be able to make profits from your account, then you can go ahead and buy a prop firm account. So don't buy a prop firm account from your capital. That's what I usually encourage my guys. Because let's say if you worked, you have a job, you've worked, and then you get paid, and then you go and buy a prop account, and then you lose everything. I recommend guys, if you got paid and you want to trade and you are trading, first put that money in your personal account, trade it. If you can make profits from it, then that profit is what you take. You go and buy a prop firm account. Yes, that is true. But what I'm saying is that if you have $100, why are you putting it all on a pro forma account? Why don't you make $50 or $30 from it, and then use that $50 and then buy a pro forma account? That is what we usually do, because if you cannot make money on your personal account, what guarantee is that you will make money on a pro forma account? So that is what I usually recommend, because guys blow, people blow. You buy account, you keep on buying. People buy accounts every day. And the reasons for that is basically because there are certain principles you just have to follow if you want to make money in these markets, yeah? And it's good for you to be able to approach them. You approach the markets with a uniform principle, and that will actually be able to help you. Yeah, of course, you cannot trade prop firm every day. You can trade it based uh, on an opportunity that you see, and you don't see an opportunity every day. People don't see trading opportunities every day, unless you are somebody who sees who gets trading opportunities every day. I have no idea about that. So no, I don't trade pro farms. I don't get opportunities every day. Maybe I think in the next video I will take you through some of the pro farms that I trade with and how they have actually paid me, and then also some pro farms which have banned me. Is there? There's one particular pro farm whereby I think I made a withdrawal like 29 consecutive times, and then these guys they banned me. They are very popular. I don't want to mention their name now. It's not the right time. But they were like, yeah, we don't want your services anymore. Those things happen. So, yeah, so I was explaining principle. So, the other principle I want you to follow is that you need to be able to follow data, not your emotions. There is a tendency for us as traders to trade based on how we're feeling, and that feeling usually is from either anger, or with fear. But that kind of trading will actually not help you. It's not the right way to be able to trade every day. You don't want to find yourself trading based on how you're feeling, because how you're feeling is usually provoked by how the market is moving and the results you're getting from the market. What you want to be able to do, you want to be able to follow data. Get as much as possible data and then use that data for you to be able to trade. What do I mean by that? If you have a particular strategy that you have tested and it has a positive outcome over a number of trades, then that is what you should follow. Not today you've seen a very big market movement or like a lot of volume, and then you'll be like, market is leaving me behind, I'm going to go there and then I need to make money like faster. No, you don't do that. Follow data that is based on a strategy, and then also data that is based on risk. Have you one of the things that you need to know actually as a trader, traders think that by changing your plans and your risk, you're trying to save your account. But what you don't know is that if you try to follow your plan for the next, let's say the next 10 trades, just that is actually how you save your account. So you don't save your account by trying to change strategy, increase risk, and all of that. That is not how you save your account. And people think in your mind, we think we're trying to save our accounts when we do that. And that is actually where the problems come. You don't save your trading account by changing. You save your trading account by being uniform, following the data that is available to you. And then from that data, that is where you get to be able to get a positive feedback. Okay? In trading, fear is an emotion, but it is static. You trade without emotion. Yeah, that is true. What I want you to notice is that what I usually tell guys about fear is that and emotions, you cannot remove emotions from trading. What you can do is that you can remove yourself from the charts. I don't know whether you hear that. Our emotions have existed Before, we've always had emotions. As a human being, emotions are part and parcels of our lives. You cannot do without emotions. You will always be emotional in everything that you do. Before trading existed, before buying and selling existed, emotions existed. We had emotions. As humans, we're always emotional. So you cannot get rid of emotions. What you can get rid of, get out of the charts as soon as you have placed your trade. Let's say if you're monitoring your trades from the 1 hourly time frame, if you've seen a trade and you've entered it, the next thing you need to do is that remove yourself from those charts because you already have a stop loss. You know how much you're risking. Okay? So you cannot remove emotions from you, but you can remove yourself from the charts. And then you come back and check after every 1 hour. So you've entered a trade, you have a take profit, you have a stop loss. Get out of your screen, go and do other things, then come back when you are left with like 2 minutes or 5 minutes for the 1 hour candle to close. Then you check. Then if the market is still moving, it has not yet decided to hit your stop loss or take profit, you also take a break like that. That is the best way for you to be able to. But when you're watching it there, it's going to be very difficult. You're going to need a lot of willpower to be able to sustain that ability to not touch that position you're in. Okay, this one is saying is a technical trader. I'm a technical trader. I'm a technical analyst trader. I learned 10 hours practice and practice. So practicing every day. Yeah, you can practice every day, which is good. But what you need to do is that it's important for you to practice one thing every day. If you've watched martial arts movie, I'm a big fan of martial arts. Try to do Muay Thai and some boxing. But we usually follow Bruce Lee for saying that fear the man who practices one kick or one style 10,000 times than somebody who practices a lot. So if you're practicing every day, the question is, are you practicing on one thing, one strategy, or you're trying to practice on various strategies every day? So there's a distinct line between trying to do one thing every day so that you can make it automatic. You can reach to that realm of automaticity. Okay? And actually, that's what I wanted to talk about. And that's the next principle that I wanted to talk about is that build habits that will eventually become automatic. So you need to be able to reach to that point of automaticity where something is almost automatic. It is a habit whereby you have a muscle memory for it. Well, it's just like a muscle memory in trading is basically where when you see a trading opportunity that you've seen several times, you don't hesitate. You just take it without hesitation. You see it and then you take it. That is going to help you, but it will not come immediately. You are going to have to practice. You're going to have to practice, and then you have to reach that point of automaticity. Something is automatic. Yeah, that is good. Yes, risk management is very important. Is the holy grail. I was explaining that. It's the closest thing to a holy grail. You see, there are very many industries in this world that we're living in with different abilities and capabilities, but most of them, they don't have holy grail. Whether you're talking social environment, whether you're talking economic, or even religion. The fact that we have like thousands of them and each and every one of them is claiming me to the true path should alarm you. Or when you think that democracy or communism is the perfect one, then you come and realize that they all have loopholes. The same thing with the trading strategy. Maybe the closest thing to a holy grail, if you somebody who follow the richest man, you realize this guy Elon Musk with SpaceX and space travel, they kind of hit a holy grail, especially in their engine, their reusable engine. Remember, if you've studied space travel and stuff like that, going to the moon or outer space, going was very costly and expensive because of one thing majorly, the engine, which they call like the Raptor engines, the RD 180 and all of that stuff that the Russians had. Whenever you go to travel to space, you have to come when you come back, you have to build another engine. Like the engine you have used is not reusable. You cannot use the engine again. So you have to come and build another one. So that makes it very costly. But with SpaceX and Elon Musk, they have reached that point whereby they can go and then reuse the same engine. So they have hit holy grail in their industry. And this is something that has taken over more than maybe 60 years now, because the last time people went to the moon was like 50 something years ago. And people have started going recently because of that reusability. So they have hit a holy grail. But when it comes to trading, the closest thing to holy grail is your risk management. You're not going to get it right every day, but when you fail, you don't damage your whole account. Like the account has to stay when you fail. And that is why that is why it is important for you to be able to learn to take trading and risk management as as the most important thing. And then the other principle I want you to follow is that when you're trading, you need to learn to listen to a particular voice, especially uh, that one that you have tested over some time. Now, when you go online, you will see a lot of blues, a lot of profits, and all of that. But what I can tell you from real life experiences, 99% of the blues that you see people posting, they are not. So what you need to do is that follow your own way. Like, let's say, be your own, like the path that you're going to take while you trade should be the path that you rely on, and that is what you should also be listening to most of the time. There are lots of voices, and not all of them are actually conveying the right information. So you want to be able to follow that voice that you have trusted, that can actually make you profitable over time. Not very many. Not today you're jumping from somebody who is trading maybe this strategy in this country, and then the next day this one, and then the next day is this one here. That is going to actually delay you. You're going to find yourself not going too far. Okay, you're saying I will learn risk management this far. You're saying you're from Uzbek. Okay, that is good. I hope you're doing well. Okay. Yeah, if you've just come, we're here just discussing market principles, and and I just wanted to put them like in one basket and then throw it out there for you. And all of these will actually be able to help you become a better practitioner of uncertainty. Okay. What you need to know is that these markets we trade, they seem to be full of uncertainties. And usually some of these uncertainties can come in form of black swans if you've studied Taleb works or stuff like that. So what you need to do as a trader, you need to become a better practitioner of uncertainty. And this can actually happen when you realize that when the market moves from one point to another, the market creates patterns. And then those patterns there, they increase our probability of predicting, of becoming certain. Each time a market creates a pattern, you know that this pattern is going to be closer to certainty. So you want to learn to be a good practitioner of uncertainty. Like as a student of the market, you're following the market, you need to know that whenever the market is moving from a particular point, it always leaves prints. And those prints are usually in form of patterns. Now, there are people who think that patterns don't work. And this is usually because when you look at a pattern, let me give you an example. When you look at a pattern, like let's say a head and shoulders pattern, that is very common there. When you just have the abstract picture of that pattern, all you think is this is all it is. No, but usually a pattern is just like the tip of the iceberg. You need to be able to look at the ice beneath there. What is that? Let me break down for you an example of a head and shoulders pattern. When you see a head and shoulders pattern, what I want you to observe is that at the head there is usually a double top, a triple top. What is available at triple top or double top? There is liquidity being cleared. Okay? Double top is usually a sign that the liquidity has been cleared, or a triple top. And that is synonymous with smart money concepts. So inside the head and shoulder, which has a double top or a triple top, there is liquidity being cleared. So that now, if you're trading head and shoulders, then you don't need to be worried about smart money concept, because inside that smart money is that liquidity has been cleared, whether it is for the bottom or the upper side. Okay? Then what else is there in a head and shoulders? When you look at the left shoulder and the right one, when the market breaks the neckline, comes down, that is usually an indication of a structure. The market has created a high, and then a high that it has failed to break, and then a lower low. So you have a high, a higher high, and then now you have a lower low. That is a structure, which people call break of structure. From that high, the market has come down to create a new lower low. That is a break of structure. That is an indication of the market wanting to come back down. Okay? So you can see inside the head and shoulder, you already have liquidity being cleared. You have a break of structure because the market forms a lower low. And then you also, and when the market returns to the right shoulder, you have a break and retest. A break and retest. So there are people who trade break and retest. You realize inside the head and shoulder, there is already a break and retest. And that point that the market comes to retest is actually an order block. So the market comes to retest an order block. So if you trade order block, you realize, oh, inside the head and shoulders pattern, there is order block, there is break and retest, there is liquidity being cleared, there is change of character. And when price breaks out, that is already like market has, because when you're following Elliott wave, or when you're following Elliott wave, or when you're following these other principles, you realize the market has accumulated and now it's distributing. You have your spring, your strut, and all of that. Wyckoff. So head and shoulders, in brief, it has your break of structure, it has your liquidity being cleared, it has your break and retest, it has Wyckoff, it has order block, it has 3 touches for Elliott wave. You see, now, but when you were before that, you just see that head and shoulder is not as minor as it is. Head and shoulder has everything that every other strategy has. Why is that so simple? Why is it like that? That is the next question you need to ask yourself. Why is it like that? And the reason for that is basically the market is just either going up or down. So the market, what the market is trying to say is that it doesn't matter what lens you have coming to look at the market, whatever lens you bring to the table, whether you're bringing a very big length or stuff like that, all the equipment you're bringing in the market, they are just to be able to help you predict what is going to go down or what is going to go up. So instead of coming with all the strategies, you're coming with smart money, you're coming with ICT, you're coming with market structure, you're coming with order block, you're coming with different strategies that these guys have named. Just look at the pattern. There is head and shoulder. What is inside it? There's liquidity being cleared, there's retest, there's order block, there's change of character, there's Wyckoff, there's Elliott wave. Everything is inside the head and shoulder. The same thing with an inverse head and shoulder. You also have all of those things. Yeah. You're saying I like long-term trades. If you watch, just go back to the videos and look at the way I analyze the market there. You realize I always do a top-down analysis. I look at the high the high of a month, of a year. Then I come down to the week, the daily, the H4, then maybe the 1 hour. And I begin to look for trades within that 1 hour thing. That is okay. Yeah, it's yeah, and that is actually how the market is. The market is not random. The market creates patterns, and those patterns are reliable, and that is science. And it can also be an art, because in that process of market movement, the market is creating patterns, and those patterns are in form of arts. They are patterns, and the reason why we call like they can also be scientific is that they are reliable. An artistic pattern that the market has formed. Let's say if the market has formed a head and shoulder, that is an art that the market has drawn for you. The fact that the market will continue to draw it again and again, that is a science now. That is a fact. It means you can rely on it. So when you say you only trade based on facts and science and methodologies that are proven, that is a correct way of approaching the market, because you're first allowing the art to be formed. And once the art is formed, you rely on it based on science because you know it will continue to be formed. So that's a good way of approaching the market. It's far, far superior to how you approach the market with emotions. That's a good thing. Okay. Saying I like, okay. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I think this is the first time we've gone live. Most of the days we're either at the lakeside trying to have fun or on the charts analyzing it. And then today we just wanted to make it live because some of the students wanted it. Some of the colleagues we trade with wanted us to go live. Okay. I think we will continue to do that for some time. But just go onto the videos that we usually analyze. You will learn a ton of things that you may not actually find in other channels. Yeah, you can go and prove me from the other videos. You check them. Most of the analysis we do, they tend to play out. But of course, the most important thing is the strategy, is the science behind it. All right. The good thing with trading is that whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, like the market is there at your disposal and it will reward and punish you based on how you approach it with science and facts. Okay, so you want to be able to approach it every day with science and facts and proven methodologies rather than with emotions. That's the only way in which you're going to actually get something from the markets. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad you're interested in scientific facts. Okay. So somebody is asking, how can I usually pass pro firms sooner? This is what I usually recommend. If you want to be able to pass your pro firms, it is very important to have, first of all, you need a very volatile pair. That is what I usually recommend, a pair that can move a lot. And then you need to have a proper risk management. If you have a proper risk management and you have a pair that is moving a lot, then you have a chance. The reason for that is that It helps you not to trade the account for a lot of months or a long period of time, because there is a problem where traders find themselves trading one account for 6 months. That is, 6 months is quite a long time. And the reason for that is because they're trading less volatile pairs. Like you're trading Euro CHF, you're trading the Euro and the Swiss. It's too slow. You are going to stall and delay. But if you take it with gold, if your risk management is on point and then you have gold, then there is a higher chance for you to pass it sooner, because gold is going to be moving a lot. And that will help you pass it sooner, because remember, there is no time limit with most prop firms. So I usually recommend you pick a pair that is volatile, and then you stick with it and then trade it. Okay. Yeah, you can keep dropping your questions. We have about 14 minutes for me to be able to go, because we wanted to do it just for 1 hour. Then we see how we can be able to do it again tomorrow, because there is a lot of information for us to learn and share, as I also learn from you. And then we see how we can put all of this to work and benefit from it, make profits, and make some money. Okay, this one is saying, some people, and you're talking about Tesla, Nikola Tesla. Yeah, Tesla is a great guy. His inventions were out of this world. The guy was a genius, a serious genius, and he did great things. But the biggest issue with him, he was not like a business. He didn't have the business acumen. He was not as sharp as his inventions were. If you've studied his life, you realize that most of the inventions he brought up, they ended up being taken by the people who were trying to fund him. So Nikola Tesla, genius as he was not acumen in business. If you've studied his life, you realize at one point, even Thomas Edison, the guy whom we also call a genius, the guy we praise so much for inventing the light bulb and electricity and all of that, he did Nikola Tesla dirty. Because Nikola Tesla came up with AC, the alternative current, and all of that. And this guy was already rolling out his electric thing. And that was a threat to his inventions. And he never liked that. And he started a very steep competition, which was actually deep and dangerous, to a point that he was actually using animals to show people that Nikola Tesla's ideas were dangerous, could bring dogs on live and then electrocute them. And then tell people, if you adopt this guy technology, this is what will happen to you. So people got scared. So Nikola Tesla is a genius here, but he was not very sharp businessman. There was actually one point where he was working with this gentleman, whereby the contract he had signed for him to be paid patent and all of that, and the guy who was supposed to pay him didn't have the money to pay him, and the guy went to him to discuss it, how they can resolve the issue, and he got up and he tore the paper. Like, he was not minding about the contract. He was like, you can forget about the contract. And he struggled financially, because sometimes you realize being a genius and not having the business acumen is very costly. Okay? Yeah, so when you study his work, the biggest lesson there, in addition to the inventions and the out of this world things he has brought, it is important to be sharp, be acumen. Otherwise, you will be taken advantage of. Yeah. And then maybe one more principle that I can explain before we can be able to go off is there's what we call the idiot index. Now, the idiot index is a concept in manufacturing whereby the ratio between the cost of a raw material and the final product from that raw material is measured. And if the ratio of the cost of the raw material is higher than the cost of the final product, then they say there is a higher idiot index. So when you bring this concept into trading, you realize that most of the traders, we tend to have a higher idiot index. Like the idiot index is so high for the traders because traders always want to flip accounts. And then we forget that the cost of trying to flip an account is usually higher than the reward of the flip of the account. So what somebody usually does is that, let's say you have your money, you've been trading it diligently, and now you have grown it to a significant figure. And then you tell yourself, now this figure, I just want to flip it higher. I want to triple it, quadruple it. And then you go to the market, you risk it all, and then you lose it. Now, what you have lost there is not just the money, it is the hard work you have put in first to build the account, the time, the energy. Now it is all gone. That is a higher idiot index. The cost of flipping the account has never been equal to the final pricing or the final outcome. So when people are doing manufacturing, whether in industries and all of that, the most thing they consider usually is that idiot index. A supplier of particular raw materials can come up with the raw materials, but as soon as they come with the raw materials, and then people will be like, when they produce the final product later, and then the cost of the raw material is high, they'll be like, no, we cannot do this again. You want to be able to reduce on that idiot index so that you can have better outcome. But then now, if the final pricing of the product that has been produced is far, far, far less than the cost of the raw material, then that is encouraged. You can be able to produce. So now when you're trading, weigh your strategy, your risk, your time invested, the pairs with the final outcome. You ask yourself and track yourself. You'll be like, I've been trading for this period of time. What is my summation of history? What is the history of my trades? What is my P&L negative? Profit and loss, is it negative? If it is negative, then you go back to the strategy you've been using and determine the cost. Is it a strategy problem? Is it an emotional problem? Is it a lack of patience problem? And then you come back and then fix it. So you look at the input and then you come and look at the output. The problem with you look at the two, but then so that you can decide what to focus on. Traders look at input and output and then they focus on the output. No, in trading, the most important thing is that yes, you will lose money. Yes, you will blow accounts sometimes, but that is not the focus. The focus is on the input. The input here is what are you doing when you blow? What are you doing to make you blow? Is it because I'm over risking? Is it greed? Is it fear? You work on the input. You work on the input, then the output will automatically take care of itself. Okay? The output will automatically take care of itself if you continue to work on the input. So the input is much more important than the output in trading. That is what I'm trying to say, basically. So now, then the biggest thing, as I conclude, is usually the principle I want you to take home is patience. You know, patience is your ability to accept an outcome of a trade that you have taken without interfering with the process. So patience is like a reward. Patience is a reward from input. So the moment you have traded, whatever you're doing, you will be rewarded it with, like when you're patient with it, then you can be able to reach. It's like a harvest for the seeds you have planted. You plant a seed, then you wait for the harvest. That is what patience is in trading. It's the reward from the inputs that you have been putting. So patience is a product of what you've been doing. You cannot decide by willpower that I'm going to be patient. Patience is usually a product of knowledge that comes from trusting your strategy, practicing diligent risk management. So patience is a product, it's not a cause. You cannot start from patience. You have to be doing something correctly for a certain period of time, then you can be rewarded and while you are patient, you will be rewarded. Like I was saying, you can have an input which you can control. You have this input, that is what you determine, that is what you're doing, and then eventually you're rewarded for the patience. So patience in trading is very, very key and is very, very instrumental because it's like the final testament for like the trials that you have been having while you are trading. And while you're trading, it's not an inborn, you cannot be born with patience and all of that. It has to come as a product of knowledge. You must know something for you to be rewarded with patience. It's a product of trusting your strategy. So let's say you have a particular strategy that you have tested and then it works. That is what you are going to be rewarded with being patient. Maybe I will explain more another time. Today I'm just giving you sketches of the strategies I follow when I open the charts. So you can always go back to this live and check out all of those strategies, all of those principles. The reason why I do principle-based trading is because you're either doing principle-based trading or you're doing emotional-based trading. But emotional-based trading is actually costly. The cost of that is higher. The only time the cost reduces is when you are not trading. But if the market is going up, you go up with it. If it's coming down, you come up with it. You feel like you're missing out. That fear of missing out, then it's going to cost you. But all of these are answered by you being patient, which is just a product. It's a product. Someone is asking me, what do you trade majorly? So my major right now, I majorly focuses on gold and Bitcoin. Gold specifically, but I've traded other pairs also. Traded all these other pairs. But what I can promise you for sure is that good things will start happening to you when you stop trading Euro CHF. The Euro Swiss is low. But of course, if you're beginning, the only thing I recommend highly for people who can be able to trade gold is never forget to have a stop loss and know how much you're risking. Try and know how much you're risking. Before you can even enter that buy or that sell, know how much you're going to risk. Is it 1%? Is it 2%? Is it 3%? And then you keep it constant and uniform. Then you will have a higher chance in these markets. Because these markets will always be there, and the market is always correct, and it is always moving. The only person who may not be there, it is you when the capital is blown. So you just want to be able to plan and tell yourself, for the next trades that I'm going to take following my strategy, I just want to be available for the next trade. And then the outcome will take care of itself. Okay, I think we're done now. 1 hour is done. Let's catch up another time. Share it with these guys. You're welcome, man.